globe, men are revolting against old systems of exploitation and oppression. And out of the wombs of a frail world, new systems of justice and equality are being born. The shiftless and barefoot people of the land are rising up as never before. The people who sat in darkness have seen a great light. We in the West must support these revolutions. That social change comes most meaningfully through nonviolent action. I knew that I could never raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed without first having spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. It should be incandescently clear that no one who has any concern for the integrity and life of America today can ignore this present war. If America's soul becomes totally poisoned, part of the autopsy must read Vietnam. We must be prepared to match actions with words by seeking out every creative method of protest possible. These are times for real choices and not false ones. We are at the moment when our lives must be placed on the line if our nation is to survive its own folly. Every man of humane convictions must decide on the protest that best suits his convictions, but we must all protest.
I am struck by the boldness and the clarity that Martin Luther King spoke with always, but not just what he spoke with, but how he lived. And I think that we are called to go that deeply in our lives.
The war in Vietnam is but a symptom of a far deeper malady within the American spirit. And if we ignore the sobering reality, we will find ourselves organizing clergy and laymen concerned committees for the next generation. In 1957, a sensitive American official overseas said that it seemed to him that our nation was on the wrong side of a world revolution. This need to maintain social stability for our investments accounts for the counter-revolutionary action of American forces in Guatemala. It is with such activity in mind that the words of the late John F. Kennedy come back to haunt us. 5 years ago, he said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." Increasingly, by choice or by accident, this is the role of our nation. The role of those who make peaceful revolution impossible by refusing to give up the privileges and the pleasures that come from immense profits of overseas investments.
I think there's some things that were not said in Dr. King's speech that are important. He did not say silence is betrayal except when the Democrats are in power. He did not say that. He did not say, go elect a savior, a better one, a different one, right? And nobody questioned him. How can you be a serious activist if you're not engaged in elections? And you never endorse any candidates. Can't you get serious about your activism? Don't you want to change the world in any way? This is a very new phenomenon and a very dangerous one, along with the disempowerment in general. The idea that we have a choice of nothing or activism. What Dr. King said and what he would say now is go and do what the Hancock 38 and all the other Hancock numbers are doing. Go and do what Kathy Kelly is doing, building understanding between Afghanistan and this country. Go and do the things that have always worked to change the world. Stop squinting and trying to see a difference and obsessing over that moment in that voting booth. Do something more useful with your resources.
I'm concerned that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. when machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. A true revolution of values will lay hands on the world order and say of war, this way of settling differences is not just. This business of burning human beings with napalm, or filling our nation's homes with orphans and widows, of injecting poisonous drugs of hate into the veins of people normally humane, of sending men home from dark and bloody battlefields physically handicapped and psychologically deranged, cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. There is nothing except a tragic death wish to prevent us from reordering our priorities so that the pursuit of peace will take precedence over the pursuit of war. It is a sad fact that because of comfort, complacency, a morbid fear of communism, and our proneness to adjust to injustice, the Western nations that initiated so much of the revolutionary spirit of the modern world have now become the arch anti-revolutionary. Our only hope today lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into the sometimes hostile world declaring eternal hostility to poverty, racism, and militarism.
You know, last week the U.S. finally began a very partial cleanup of the Agent Orange in Vietnam. This is something that doesn't end quickly. We are still, our nation, the greatest purveyor of violence. He said there is a fundamental problem with war as a resolution of conflict in the world. I think the silence now is far greater because our communication system is far worse. There is a war, so-called, on whistleblowers. There is an assault on someone like Bradley Manning. I think that the courage of the President of Ecuador and the courage of the silence is going to be absolutely deafening if you go to prison for journalism, if embassies are raided because a journalist is disliked by a more powerful country. I think we need those who work in other fields of activism than the anti-war movement, need to join with us in a united struggle. I think the environmental movement needs to be willing to join with us in taking on the world's leading environmental destroyer. I think the radical love that Dr. King spoke of has to be expanded to future people as well as foreign people. We cannot continue to use and sanction violence abroad without condoning and building the violence that is plaguing our own nation.
And I think tonight especially about our friends down in Tennessee who went to the Y-12 plant and brought the voice of sanity in the midst of the insanity. You know, we're supposed to be disarming and we're building more nuclear weapons, and we're refining them, we're making them better, we're making our war, making our death ability more precise. So I think of the boldness of what they did and how kind of shocking it is to this empire that they could have walked in there and they did what they did. And I think our actions have to be that bold.
A genuine revolution of values means, in the final analysis, that our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Every nation must now develop an overriding loyalty to mankind as a whole in order to preserve the best in their individual societies. This call for worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concern beyond one's tribe, race, class, and nation is in reality a call for an all-embracing and unconditional love for all mankind. When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. Let us hope that this spirit will become the order of the day. We can no longer to worship the God of hate and bow before the altar of retaliation. The oceans of history are made turbulent by the ever-rising tides of hate. History is cluttered with the wreckage of nations and individuals who pursued this self-defeating path of hate. We are now faced with the fact, my friends, that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. Procrastination is still the thief of time. Life often leaves us standing bare, naked, and dejected, with lost opportunity. The tide in the affairs of men does not remain at the flood, it ebbs. We may cry out desperately for time to pause in her passage, but time is adamant to every plea and rushes on. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numerous civilizations are written the pathetic words, too late. We have a choice today: nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. We must move past indecision to action. We must find ways to speak for peace in Vietnam and justice throughout the developing world, a world that borders on our doors. If we do not act, we shall surely be dragged down the long, dark, and shameful corridor of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. And if we only make the right choice, we will be able to transform this pending cosmic energy into a creative psalm of peace. If we will but make the right choice, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our world into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. If we but make the right choice, we will be able to speed the day all over America and all over the world, when justice will roll down like the waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
We are all called to do what we're able to do, and that we do this within community and with each other, and how many people supported us. And it takes a whole community to do the work, and that community, that we can go deeper and be bolder in our witness and our actions. So thank you very much.